Hey everyone, I welcome you back to this nightmare of a contraption. In case you haven't seen it or don't remember, this is the hoe burner. And I designed it with one purpose in mind, and that purpose is to break a wooden hoe in exactly 3 seconds. So let's talk about how I built it, why it looks like a pile of garbage, and how it exactly works. Before we address these bigger projects, let's talk about the predecessor. This one it was built under the pipe dream that I could achieve what I achieved with these two monstrous machines. But I never could because it only got to 13.3333 hoe burns per second. And that's all inherent due to the problematic setup that we built here. The setup I'm referring to actually did was it just rotated the dirt like this. And what it does is it constantly rotates out the dirt in the center block, which means that you can hoe it and re-hoe it again very quickly if you spin it up really fast. But even before we address that thing, let's talk about zero ticking. In weird circumstances, like this one, you can make pistons move blocks instantaneously. But the reason why it has its limitations in that setup I showed you is because for some reason, if I go ahead and freeze the game, and then step forward a little bit, this piston's about to power. And this first block, which I'll replace with a quartz block, it moves forward instantly, as we discussed. But these other dirt blocks, they don't. Any block that's not immediately in front of the piston, meaning all these dirt blocks, they're not going to move instantly. They're going to take their sweet time. Which is why in a setup like this, sure, we can move this dirt block immediately to the center, but the dirt block that was in front of it, this one, is going to take its sweet time getting over to the other side. And when we need to push it back into place, the one that comes around to the other side of the rotation, it's still moving, so we don't have the time. How we intend to remedy this problem is by introducing a wait period. We move the first two, basically one after the other, then we wait a tick for the blocks to arrive at their destinations, and then do the other two, wait, and do the other two. And this means that none of the pistons will just simply not extend because of the moving block in front of them. Now, as you can see, we're going to end up with some jagged motion. So we get dirt on the first tick, then the second tick, we have to wait, and then third and fourth, wait, fourth and fifth. And this is how we get the weird 13.3333 hoe burns per second number. And so despite feeling disillusioned by this unfortunate setback, we still built the machine. And it works. If I go ahead and grab a hoe, as you can see, the durability is going away pretty quickly. But even still, I clung to the pipe dream of creating something bigger. So let's talk about problem solving. I've got this machine right here, and it does 13.3 blocks per second as I showed earlier. But the problem is I need to fill these gaps, so my first thought is just, oh, well, build another one. Offset it slightly, so whenever this one's not giving me dirt, I can look through and access the other dirt. Well, there's a problem, because if I actually look at this setup, this dirt's always solid. I can never look through, which means building another one on top of it just obscures the bottom one and we're back at the same problem. So we know that this new machine has to work fundamentally different from how the previous one did. And that's when I had an epiphany. The way this system works right here is that it swaps the dirt we're looking at, indicated by the center one, with other dirt. What we want to do is swap it with air, but you can't push air because then it just pulls it back. So what we need to do is have the block we're looking at have to be in front of a sticky piston so that I can push it forward. So in this setup, we're looking through here, we're accessing the bottom machine, and for one tick, we push it in front of the player, and then push it away. And it's through this that we can just have the dirt block in our view briefly and then continue to look through the bottom. And that's how we can essentially fill in these gaps, not by looking through one machine, but by putting it in front of us for the brief moment that we need it and then taking it away the moment after. So in order to actually visualize what we put into practicality, I gutted this machine of all the important bits and left behind the wiring. What I've replaced it with is this string of command blocks that just puts redstone blocks in the right places at the right times in order to mimic what the wiring actually does. But this is too fast. Let's stop time. As you can see in the bottom here, we're used to this. It moves, it pushes, then there's a wait period, it moves, it pushes, wait period, move, push, wait, move, push. But the thing is, in the wait period that's about to come up, that's where our second machine comes in. Because during this wait period, boom, we get dirt in front of our face. We hoe the dirt, and then by the time it's moved out, 1 tick later, this has just pushed in a new dirt block. In these wait periods, we can just briefly have a dirt block occupy this space, and then it allows us to fill in the gaps. So as you can see, it's here, then it's not for 1 tick, then 2 ticks, then wait, then 1 tick, 2 tick, and then wait. And these two machines are perfectly synced, which means we can get the elusive 20 blocks per second. So I've discussed all the important mechanics on what makes this thing tick. But I haven't explained one thing, and that is why it looks like something that came out of a trash compactor. And I've spent so long talking about the mechanics and why exactly this thing runs, that I haven't really spoken about how and why it looks like a trash compactor is garbage. Why does it look so awful? And the reason for that is redstone is weird. You see, the reason for why redstone is weird is because if I go ahead and freeze time, press this button, and I step a tick, you'd expect this piston to activate. But no, because this 1 tick repeater actually takes 2 ticks to activate, as you can see. And we have things happening in those in-between ticks. And what's so difficult is that in order to create this level of precision that normal redstone components can't handle because they run on 2 tick intervals, we have to use some special scaffolding magic to create a separate redstone wire that runs in between and triggers events on those in-between ticks. It's just the same redstone wire, only offset by a tick to trigger on the odds instead of the evens, so we can get that maximum precision. There's a problem, though. And that means that these two lines have to essentially be independent of each other. And they all do their own things in this machine, but they're all separate of each other, which means that we just have so much garbage running around at the same time that's just completely not hooked up to each other, meaning everything has to run everywhere, and there's just so many components that all are triggered by this line or this line or this line that it just becomes very, very complicated. And to make matters worse, check out this part. This is the 0 tick generator I showed you earlier. It's the one that allows our blocks to move, well, instantly. 0 ticks. And the problem with that machine is that it only works once every 6 ticks. You try to go faster, it breaks. That's all cool for this machine, because it only has to run once every 6 ticks. Every cycle is once every 6 ticks, only every 0 tick only has to activate once every 6 ticks. But that's not the case for this top machine. It has to move once every 3 ticks. And that becomes a problem because it's not fast enough. So, when in doubt, add more. This piston right here is actually triggered by this 0 tick generator and this one too. And when this one activates, 3 ticks later this one triggers, allowing this one to recharge for the next trigger, this one triggers, and this one recharges. They basically pass responsibility, and while one is recharging, the other one fires. And that's what this entire machine is really. It's just passing of responsibility to responsibility to responsibility, and that's how we get this whole thing to operate at breakneck light speeds and get the elusive 20 whole burns per second. But there remains one question. Why? Why would I build this? And the way I answer that is I just say why not. Because the reality is that the Minecraft community, we get problems, we solve them. And it's usually people a lot smarter than me. And the thing is there's so many problems, but all those problems have solutions, and all of the problems have been solved already. So what I do is I make up new problems. I create a problem like, try to break a wooden hoe in 3 seconds. And it's those cool, interesting problems that have unique facets that lead to cool solutions. And that's what it is. It was just me asking a question, hey, is this possible? And me eventually building this and answering yes. That'll be it for today's video. If you want to check out more content like this, make sure to like and subscribe, look at the other videos on my channel, and I'll see you next time.